Hello there, math students. Today you get to hear Mrs. Kempy's voice instead of Mr. Belk's voice. We are going to be talking about following the order of operations today. And I wish I'd paid attention when I learned order of operations as a kid, but luckily you get to pay attention today. So we call these the order of operations because in math we call operations, let me get my pen here, we call the operations, that's all the stuff that we do in math. That's all like multiplying, dividing, adding, subtracting, all of the stuff that we do, those are called operations, and we have to all follow the same order when we're doing that so that we all get the same answer. So when we are following the order of operations, the first thing that we do is the parentheses. So in this word PEMDAS that you can see right here, maybe some of you know this as please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. That's the way that we remember this. The P in that stands for parentheses or grouping symbols. Those parentheses or those grouping symbols could look just like regular grouping or regular parentheses. Sometimes we see them as kind of squared off set brackets. Sometimes we even see them as squiggly set brackets. Sometimes actually a fraction bar can even be one of our grouping symbols. Next, the E stands for exponents. So when we see exponents, that's a separate thing that we would do after we take care of all of our different grouping symbols. Multiplying and dividing, I'm going to kind of group those together because we don't always do multiplying before dividing. We have to make sure that when we're doing multiplying and dividing, we have to go from left to right. So whatever we get to first, if there's a multiplying before a dividing, we would do that first. But if there's a dividing before a multiplying, as we go from left to right, we have to do that first. And then the A is for adding, and the S is for subtracting. But it's the same kind of deal here. We have to go for these two. Oh, that wasn't a very nice set bracket. From left to right on that. So some people want to do all of their adding before they do the subtracting, but you have to make sure that you go from left to right. So if there happens to be a subtraction before an addition, you have to make sure that you're following that order. So when we're following the order of operations, some of these are going to look like we are funneling down. So when you're showing your work, and it's always important to show your work, it should look like each problem is getting a little bit shorter because they're going to funnel down. We're going to do one tiny step at a time. So as I'm looking at this in our order of operation, all I've got is addition and subtraction right here. So I would have to go from left to right. So the first thing that I'm going to do is just that right there. 1 minus 1 is 0. I know it's a 0, but I still want to write it. Plus 4. Wow, that just connected right there. Sorry. Minus 1. Okay, now I still have to go left to right. I'm still going to do that part. 0 plus 4 is 4. I still have minus 1. Notice I'm writing everything down that I didn't do yet. Write it down. And now 4 minus 1, that's 3. Do you see how this looks kind of like a triangle or a funnel? You should be writing all of these things down so it all comes down to just that very last answer at the end. Okay, now I want you to try this one. You can pause the video for a second if you want to, but I want you to write this problem down and try it on your own. I'm going to try it right now. So I would do 5 minus 2 is first. That's going to be 3. Then write everything else down. And then I would do 3 plus 4 is going to be 7 minus 2. Those two go together to make my 5. And again, looks like a funnel. This time we've got some multiplying. And you know that we've got lots of different ways to show multiplying. But this 5 times 2 right here in the parentheses, you know that that's one way to show multiplying. And multiplying would come before any adding and subtracting. However, that's not the first thing that I do here. I know that the 5 and the 2 are in parentheses, but that's not really what those parentheses are about. That's about multiplying. In this problem, this is my first step because it's in parentheses. 7 minus 4 is really the first thing I have to do. So I should be rewriting 2 times 5 plus, I don't really need to keep the parentheses here, but 7 minus 4, that's going to be a 3. It was in parentheses. I had to do it first. Now I would have to multiply. Like I wouldn't do 5 plus 3. I have to multiply it first. I have to do 2 times 5 is going to be 10 plus 3 gives me 13 for my answer. Oops. Okay. This time, I see some multiplying, I see some dividing, but more importantly, I see stuff inside parentheses. So you have to do the stuff inside the parentheses, right? If you want to try this one on your own, feel free to pause the video quick, try it, write it down, see if you can get the right answer. I'm going to have 4 times 8. 6 minus 4 in parentheses gives me 2. Now, when I'm at this point, I know there's multiplying and dividing, and we have to go from left to right for multiplying and dividing. So I would have to do this part next because it comes first left to right. So 4 times 8 is going to be 32. Divided by 2 is going to give me 16. Now we've got a couple more steps this time. I still do have some things inside parentheses. So I am going to, inside the parentheses, make sure that I take care of that. So I'm going to rewrite everything that I don't take care of yet. 2 minus 1 plus, inside the parentheses, 6 minus 5 is going to be 1. I'm actually going to keep that 1 in parentheses. There's a reason it's in parentheses besides just doing that subtraction first. It's smooshed right up next to these parentheses for that 4. And I hope that you understand what this means. When those parentheses are right next to each other, that means it's a multiplication. And that multiplication would come before any of this other adding and subtracting over here. So I'm going to have to do this next. So I'll have 2 minus 1 plus 1 times 4 is 4. 2 minus 1 is 1. Now I'm just going left to right. 2 minus 1 is 1 plus 4 is 5. And again, notice that funnel shape that we have. All right, one more problem. There's a bunch of stuff in parentheses. So when I'm looking at all of this stuff in parentheses, I have to figure out what I would do first. Do I do the 4 minus 2 first? Or do I do the 2 divided by 2 first? And I hope that you're thinking about your order of operations. I do division before I do subtraction, right? So once I'm inside the parentheses, I have to think about all the other order. I'm going to have to do this division right here. So this is going to be my first step. So rewriting everything else, I'll have 1 plus, I keep my parenthesis, 4 minus, now I can do this. 2 divided by 2 is 1. Parenthesis, and then we're going to keep that 6 in parentheses. So I'll have 1 plus 4 minus 1 is going to be 3. That takes care of everything that was in the parentheses. And I still have a 6 in those parentheses. And again, parentheses right next to each other, that means multiply. So 3 times 6 is going to be 18. And 1 plus 18 is 19. So today we were concerned with being able to perform the order of operations, and we want to make sure that we are always precise, that we are always careful about our order of operations. Oops, I just messed something up over there. And today then you're going to have a short worksheet with the order of operations. Make sure that when you're doing that worksheet that you are always showing all of your work and rewriting all of the things that you did not take care of in your steps so that they're all written down for you in your next step. Take care of that carefully and talk to your teacher if you need any help.